everybody, welcome back to part 2 of this insulation video. I made it into 2 parts because it was getting too long, and 2, it's quite an important step, so I don't want to miss out anything. I don't want to just skip to the end where it's all done. I want to show you how it's all done. So yeah, you may be spotting this humongous skylight. It's kind of ruining the continuity of these videos, but I think the skylight video is going to come out first, and then part 1 and part 2 of the insulation videos. Anyway, you get the point. Massive skylight! Anyway, that's you've already seen that video, I think. Oh, I'm confused. Just hung these string lights I've got up in here. They're just amazing lights they are. Powered into the, just plugged into the power rack on the driver's seat there. I'm going to crack on with the insulation today. Hopefully I'm going to get all of the, or hopefully I'm going to get it all done in the next couple of days. So in the last video, we did all the sound deadening, which is up here, and then we started to do the liner, which is this, which is just amazing stuff. And driving already, I've noticed that it's so much quieter back here already. Got my little heater plugged in down there, extension lead from the house, because it is December the something 14th, and it's getting chilly. Oh, that heat is doing a great job already. I'll be in t-shirt before long. Alright, I'm going to crack on with some of this liner. Try and get all the liner done, and then we can move on to the fleece. Which reminds me, I hope I've got a little bit of spray adhesive in the other van. I think I do. Alright. Let's go. This stuff is sticky. So you really got to make sure that you get it in the right spot before you start sticking it on, because it doesn't come off. I mean, it comes off your fingers, but it doesn't come off the wall. You'll just end up tearing it if you try to pull it off. Quite difficult when you got to tuck it past tricky things. It's quite difficult to get it in there. So I couldn't, for it on this panel for instance, I was like maybe half an inch away from getting it to the end, so it's overlapping this beam here, but I mean this is all fine because I'm going to cover that, and this is all going to be stuffed with the woolen fleece insulation anyway. So this super liner, not only does it help with the sound deadening, it also stops the van cooking in the heat. So it kind of keeps the heat out. Also in the winter it helps stop those cold panels reacting with all the warm air inside and condensating. So yeah, this stuff is pretty good. It's a waterproof closed cell foam. Once it's on there, it's on there. Alright, let's crack on. I'm going to try and do these back doors now. Right, so there's no way I'm going to be able to get a neat job of getting that in there, so I'm going to do strips. If I cut it in the middle again, should be able to tuck that up, and then maybe even have to cut it in the middle. Just want to cover that panel. Stop all that resonance and, you know. So I played some of this footage back to myself on the computer yesterday, and all these tap noises didn't really seem as different as they do in real life. So this is the difference between nothing, sound deadening, and sound deadening and the liner. See how hollow and you know, alive that noise is, and then just sound deadening. You can already hear it's a lot different. And then over here, when they've got the liner, the difference. Amazing. I'm going to try and do a bit on the ceiling now. Can't imagine this is going to go. Hopefully this will go okay. So these holes along the top, they're also up here. I'm going to be putting a whole load of conduit in these things. So I know I've covered it here, but I put a little X there so I can put some conduit and thread cables all the way through. All my electrics are going to be in this bottom corner of the van. So I'm going to be having solar cables coming in down there, so there'll be a conduit going in that corner. There will be, the battery of the van is underneath the floor there, so there'll be a conduit going through all these for battery cables to get back there. Kitchen's going to be here, so there's going to be conduit going up here and through this ridge line. Through this ridge line all the way down back to there. So yeah, I'm making sure that I'm not blocking my roots, my cable roots. Also, I'm going to be stuffing all them voids with woolen insulation. You know, this Dodo Thermo Fleece at some point. So conduit, and then I can stuff it all with fleece. So yeah, just put a couple of crosses in those holes so I can access and thread cables through, etc. So the ceiling up here has got the liner, it's got the liner, it's got the liner, just a bit of liner to go on the back ceiling here, bit of liner in there. Almost those two bits of liner, and the only then I can start using the sound deadening on the wheel arches. I'm gonna cover the wheel arches completely in this stuff because I've got a whole box of it still. Okay, so I've left the gap at the bottom because the floor's coming up, but yeah, it is tricky because of the shape of the wheel arch. We can only try our best, right? I think that's alright. That's gonna make all that rain noise, all that rain spraying up when you're driving, all that noise, that's gonna be gone, I reckon. So before I fill in all the voids with woolen insulation, I went and bought a load of conduit. Yes, I went and bought a load of 25mm conduit so I can stick that in all the important places before I pack it all in with insulation. I swore to myself in my other conversion that I would never use this stuff again because it's quite difficult to put cables through because they're ridged. But one, I don't think the ridges inside these are like, they're much better than what the stuff I used before. And also I went and bought some of these cable access kits so you can screw all these rods together and tape your cable to it and push all your cables through. So first one I'm going to do is kitchen. So I'm going to run a cable, the electric is going to be in that cupboard, so I'm going to run this through the side ribs and through the ceiling rib. More conduit to do. This is taking all afternoon, this conduit, mainly because this channel up here is quite tight for the 25mm conduit. So I mean the cables that I'll be running this way and down to here, that's going to be kitchen, so there's only really going to be light switches and yeah, there may be a few cables going through actually, so I'm quite glad I spent the time forcing a 25mm conduit through there. So yeah, kitchen unit's going here, so the cable goes up this pillar, along this pillar. It does mean, however, that I'm now not going to be able to get as much insulation in this pillar. So I don't like using expanding foam, but that's really the only thing I can do to tuck in all these holes to fill that up. So and also I don't know if expanding foam will crush this conduit. Anyway, so yeah, kitchen up along this pillar, and it splits here, so that it's just easier, so you don't have such a long stretch of conduit to push the cable through. So I'd pull it out here, and then I'd put it down this one, which goes down this pillar, and then along inside this pillar, and then I've zip tied it up there, and it's got it coming out here. All the cables are going to come out here. This other cable And up in this corner, I've got a piece of conduit here, which is going to have the solar cables going through there, down this pillar, and the solar cable's going to come out here as well somewhere. I've got one more conduit to run, which is from the front of the van to the back, starter battery to the back here. So I'm going to use this, all these holes in this channel right at the bottom. I think that will be it. That will be all the conduit I'm running. Alright, so this is the Dodo Thermo Fleece. So this will expand a bit more, but yeah, you can get the 50mm, which is this, and you can get the 100mm, which is obviously double the thickness of that. I mentioned this stuff is made out of recycled plastic bottles, so unlike your typical fiberish woolen insulation, this doesn't absorb or hold any moisture, so just sort of fluffing it up, making sure it's nice and thick. I'm going to stick it up in this bit. I'm going to be using some contact adhesive in a minute. Alright, normally I'd have all the windows open, etc., but I'm only going to do a little test patch of this spray adhesive just to show you. Just going to do this little section here and see if I can see how easy this stuff goes on. Oh, yeah, this is going to stick straight away. Stanley knife and scissors don't seem to, well, I haven't got a very sharp pair of scissors to be fair, but I think it's just as easy to tear it. Just do a rough line with a Sharpie and then tear it. It tears really easy. You could so yeah, I'll cover that bit. I'll just do this panel and I'll show you. And then I'm going to do the vapor barrier, which is the foil reflectix stuff. Fluffy hands. Yeah, the vapor barrier will go over the top of that. Stop any moisture getting into the metal then. But I'm going to be filling all these voids with this woolen insulation. Another good thing about this insulation is that it doesn't itch. Like do you remember growing up when you went into the loft of your house and you had all that fiberglass woolen insulation? Oh, and how much that stuff itches. Yeah, so I've got it. You can just cram it into all these recesses. And you can see up here I've done the same. There will be every single channel. Once I'm confident that there's no more pipes or cables going in, which I think I am, Pretty confident that I can just cram everything into all the nooks and crannies now. Something to point out: if you do copy and put some conduit into these ribs, I've obviously got to screw some wood to this to hold my cladding. When you screw through that wood into the metal, obviously you want to be careful not to screw into that conduit. So with these, using these little holes, I've pushed it all to the front, and it sort of sits at the front naturally anyway. You might not be able to see, but yeah. So I know that when I screw this wood on, I'm going to be putting the screws towards the back, and we will be absolutely fine. And I'll put that on there today probably. Another point as well, I don't like any wood touching the metal. So even if I put just a strip of foil tape over that rib and then put the wood onto that, I think I prefer to do that. That way you got a bit of a vapor barrier between the wood and the metal. And if you can, use stainless steel screws when screwing into the metal. Because the metal of your van gets cold, and obviously the inside of the van is warm, so condensation, those screws can get damp, which is why you have something called thermal bridging, which means you don't screw any internal fixings to the outside metalwork of your van, because the condensation can pass through the screw heads, the screws themselves. So yeah, I'm going to do foil tape, wood, my planks that I've bought, and then I'll be able to stick the insulation to the ceiling behind, you know, behind those planks, and then I can cover my whole roof with the Reflectix vapor barrier, and I'll staple that to the wood. Don't know how far we're going to get today, but hopefully we can get pretty far. A lot of you know who I'm talking about, but I spoke to the mighty Paul Brown yesterday. He has a Ducato as well, and I was speaking to him about this channel down here. I don't know if the relays and the boxes have this channel as well, but the Ducato does, and it goes below the floor line. And if you can see inside that white clip, those white clips run along there. That is the outside trim that clips into the van. So water is renowned for getting into those clips. Got woolen insulation all over my face. Water gets in through them bumper clips, and there are drainage holes in that channel, but they can get blocked up. So as you saw, I was hoovering it out the other day, and I've got to make sure that them drainage holes are clear, because like the sprinters do the same as well. They can collect water in there if those drainage holes are blocked. So regarding insulation, I want to put something in there, but I don't want to put woolen insulation, even though this woolen insulation doesn't hold moisture like the other fiberglass woolen insulation. I still don't want to put that in there. I think I'm going to, like Paul Brown suggested, just put a whole load of Reflectix foil in there, just so the water can definitely run off and get out through those drainage holes. So yeah, I ran my conduit through there. So there's that pipe there, goes all over the wheel arch and comes out down there as well. So that's going to be from my main battery cable going through there. But so I will cram that recess, that void, that channel, whatever you want to call it, with something. Possibly this. You know, I could put it to the test, but I think that does get water in there, and it may just go manky, and it may just block up those drainage holes in there. So yeah, if I just roll up or scrunch up a load of Reflectix and stuff that in those holes, can always pull that out nice and easy. Yeah, and it's not going to get all manky and block up those drainage holes. Hope that makes sense. I'm trying to be detailed on this. You know, there may be people out there that want to convert a Fiat Ducato, and so I'm going to try and share my hurdles. Also, for those that have Ducato, I've just cut off. There was a light here and a light here, and I just cut the wires. I did them individually. They weren't working. The bulbs were in, the bulbs looked good, but they weren't working anyway, so I cut them out. But I definitely heard a tick over there, so I'm pretty sure I blew a fuse. So can someone tell me what the rear lights, what fuse is for those rear lights, so I can check the fuse? I hope they don't do any other lighting other than the inside ones. But I will check my rear lights before I drive off. Alright. I don't think it's quite possible to be able to push woolen insulation all the way down these ribs, but any offcuts you get, it can't hurt to stuff them in as far as you can. Yeah, I found the best way is just to rip. So you do a bit at a time, you can keep to your line that you've drawn. I find that's the best way to cut this stuff. But if anyone knows a better way, let me know in the comments down below. So in the Ducatos, they have these vents down the bottom here. What do them vents do? I'm going to leave the vents open because they obviously vent something. But yeah, let me know what they do. But yeah, it's quite forgiving this stuff, so you can really cram it in. But yeah, there is quite a deep void in that top of that door. I've started to stuff it in this top bit here, and you can see I've left the conduit for the solar exposed. So I don't know, I think the solar's going to come in to this channel somewhere, and then I can just pop it down this hose, and then I can push the hose in once I do my finish. This is probably worth sharing. I'm using these cable rod pushers to push this woolen insulation into this channel because there's only got small holes. I don't want to use expanding foam. I hate expanding foam. So I'm using these rod pushers to push bit by bit through the gap here. You can probably see through. You know what I mean? Keep prodding at that. Just keep prodding, and you'll be able to push insulation all the way through. This works really well, pushing insulation through. It takes a bit of time and patience, but I know that whole channel now is full of insulation. So it's definitely going to go a long way to keeping the van warmer if you can get all these little bits done, all the sides here. So I think this panel's done with regarding the woolen insulation. This is going to be a window anyway, so this is coming out. This half of the pillar is full of insulation. This isn't yet, so I'm not sure if I'm running any more cables or conduit down there. But this channel was full, this channel was full. All that, it's just that bottom bit there, which I'm going to do with probably Reflectix. Now all I'm going to do is cover all that woolen insulation with either Reflectix or foil tape. That acts as my vapor barrier, and that stops any moisture get into the metal of the van, which is what you want to do. Now regarding this back section, this channel at the top, or that channel there, is full. I still need to stuff insulation into that bit over there. This channel here, it's only got small holes. There's no big holes to be able to poke insulation in. So you can get spray foam, stick the straw in there, and you know, I just don't like spray foam. I'll see. I think I do have a can of it in my Iveco, so in my other van. So I'll think about it. But otherwise, it's just the case of leaving that one. But other than that channel, I'm not sure that I'm putting any more cables down here and along here. So I'm going to leave that and that for now. I can stuff the bottom half, I guess. I'll do that. So that's a quite neat way of doing the liner. See here, I took the liner right the way down, and then as you just saw, cut across and then tucked it around. That's a really quite neat way of doing it. Where over here, I stopped the liner here. I mean, that would be fine now, because that's all stuffed with insulation. Once that's got its vapor barrier over it, that would be fine. But, yeah, that is how I'll do it in future. Over here, I didn't do that either. That panel is done. This side is done, except for this and that, just because of cable access. Now I'm gonna stuff all this pillar as well. This is broken, so that's got to come out anyway. But also I want to leave access for the lights in case we need to change light bulbs and things. So I can only really stuff the top half of that pillar. Right, ceiling. So these are what I'm going to be mounting, these planks here, these are what I'm going to be mounting to my ceiling ribs. Let me just give you the measurements of those. 3x1. It's a nice plain 3x1 plank. I've cut this one to size. So I've got to bend it to the roof so I get that nice curve. I've put a piece of foil tape on there so the wood is not touching metal. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I just thought belts and braces, let's stop the cold metal touching the wood. One more thing. Obviously there are holes here, so I've marked with pen. I've marked on the edge with pen all the spots where there's no holes, so I can see where I'm going to be screwing this plank into. And also got to start in the middle because you need to bend. So I'm going to start a screw in the middle and then work my way out. Right, so I've started putting wood in my van. Already today's work, just today's work alone, with the woolen insulation and putting these pieces of wood up, giving me a real boost, because that's looking pretty cool. So out of curiosity, I'm wondering how good the spray adhesive is going to stick the woolen insulation to the ceiling. So I've just cut this piece here. I'm going to see if I can stick some woolen insulation up here. Now I haven't bought my cladding. I may buy cladding tomorrow or the day after, but I've got the reflective foil which is going to go on last, as it were, before the cladding. So I'm going to staple that on. So even if the glue doesn't hold the woolen insulation up on the ceiling, the reflective stapled onto here will hold it up. So I'm just curious to how well it's going to stick on the ceiling. It sticks really well on the walls, so it might stay up by itself just with the glue. So let's give it a go. Yes, I know the doors are shut and I'm using contact adhesive. I'm just doing one piece just to test it out. Alright, well this is pretty exciting. That it's all coming together, like the insulation is almost there. I've got to do this piece, but I've got to try and figure out how to get a piece of wood on this rib. I've got to attach more wood like this on there, but it's quite tricky with this there. I've also got to figure out how to get a piece up here, and then I can do that. I don't know whether to call it a day or should I start foiling over the top of this yet. I don't know, it feels pretty stuck. I just don't want to leave it overnight and come out in the morning and it's all falling on the floor. So I may just staple across my vapor barrier now to keep it up. You know, I wish I'd bought the polythene sheeting instead of the reflectic stuff now. The reflectic stuff radiates the heat back into the van and out, whereas the clear foil is just a vapor barrier. It's just that the polythene sheeting is just thin, isn't it? Anyway. So left my conduit sticking out there. Don't forget, I don't know if you can see, but draw on the reflectix straight away where the wood is, where the wood is underneath, so that you, when it comes to fixing the cladding, you know where the wood is. So yeah, make sure you draw those lines. This whole inside of the skylight needs to come out for the cladding. So when that does come out, I will then vapor barrier and seal all these edges before putting all the inside of the skylight back in. Right, I'm now going to skip to when I've finished the vapor barrier. Basically, I'm going to cover everything like this, everything except where the windows are. I've left a little gap here because there's going to be a wooden batten in there, fixed to here and here. That's going to support some cladding. So yeah, I'll skip. I'll see you in the outro for this video, and I'll show you everything that I've done. All right, see you in a minute. I'm going to leave this video here. Have a look at these clips. You see what I've done so far. You get the point. There's not much more I can show you. It's just I'm now waiting for some other bits. Before I finish these other panels, I'm waiting for windows to go in. I want to get the windows in before I finish the doors. You know what I mean? But I think I've showed you everything that you need to know. If you're unsure how I'm going to finish off at any of these bits, just keep watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos, and then you'll see, as you know, how I go forward and how I finish up all these little bits and pieces. Right, now, discount code. Dodo have very kindly offered us a discount code, so if anybody wants any of their insulation or any of their sound deadening products, go down below in the video description, click on their website, go and have a look at all their products, and they are offering a 10% discount code, so that's in the video description as well. So yeah, make sure you go down there, just have a look. It costs nothing to have a look. You know, it costs nothing to get a price. So yeah, go down and have a look. I really like their products. I'm really grateful that they've given, you know, they've supplied all these things for this project. Got a whole load of empty boxes now and rubbish to get rid of, so I'm gonna go to the dump in a minute. Once again, thank you to Dodo Map. Really like your products. Really recommend that you all have a look, get some prices, etc. Okay, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.